Steve, I just thought I would get on here today just because I need to get some things out. I need to get two topics out today. So we haven't done a podcast in a little while. Man, Kenny, he's having the time of his life in Melbourne, just yahooing and carrying on as he does. So I thought I would get on and still just give you guys what you want, some too casual MMA content. So here we are. But I thought I'd release a little bit of a mini podcast. Now, I know most of our podcasts go for anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour, but today I thought I'd just try to limit that to about 20 minutes just to get some stuff out there. So firstly, the main man, he's been in the news throughout the week promoting Roadhouse, the brand new movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. We have the notorious Conor McGregor. And I just want to make note of this. I am a huge Conor McGregor fan. I have a portrait of Conor McGregor tattooed on my left calf. I got that for my birthday a couple of years ago. So I'm a massive fan. And I remember way back when, it doesn't seem too long ago, that any piece of Conor McGregor content that come out, I was waiting on it hand and foot. And every time Conor was on the screen, I was like glued to it. I was right there with him. Every single word he said, I was right there, glued to the screen. And I thought it would be the same in this regard as well. Anyway, I decided after a little bit of pondering, I was like, okay, I might just click on some of this Roadhouse content. Anyway, I clicked it. And I must have watched maybe half of a particular interview that he did with somebody. And my first emotion that I had was sadness, because at one period of time, I viewed Conor McGregor like he was some form of Superman, if you will, some form of God, because that's what he portrayed, some form of godlike figure. He was untouchable at a point. He seemed indestructible. He seemed like anything that he did would turn to gold, that he couldn't lose. And after watching some of these clips, some of these Roadhouse interviews that he did, it was very, very tough to see somebody that I saw so indestructible look almost destructible, like you could throw a feather at him and he's going to crumble. Because it was a really tough watch for me, because I watched a guy who I think is just a completely different man, somebody who is not screaming out for help, but he is a man on the screen for the world to see. And it is pretty easy to see that this man has a lot of problems. This man has what I assume substance abuse problems, maybe some drug problems, because whilst Conor has always been out there, he has always been larger than life and very out there. This was a little bit different. There were times where I felt like he was slurring his words a little bit. There were also times where I felt like he was over the top, but in a way where he was either under the influence of something or had been affected by it to a point that it's forever altered him to an extent. And throughout the last year, maybe 2 years, whenever the Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler fight had been announced and had been spoken about, the question on everybody's lips has always been, when is Conor going to come back? When is this Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler thing going to happen? When is it going to finalize? When will all this bullshit back and forth tit for tat crap between Conor and Michael, Conor and Dana, when is it going to stop? When is the fight going to get booked? Well, for all those people that are still of that notion, I'm saying to you this, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, us as UFC fans, we want to be entertained. We want the biggest, most fun fights, and definitely Conor brings that. But there comes a time where I think the person should be the first thing at play. It should be the first thing at play all the time. But as fans, and that's what I am, I'm a Conor McGregor fan, I think his welfare comes before anything. And right now, I see a man that is very, very troubled, very, very. I just see a man who's screaming out for help, who really, really needs help. Somebody who has a legitimate problem. And the thing is, and the thing that I worry about the most is that Conor McGregor is, and it's not the fact that I worry about it, I've seen it. He would be surrounded by yes men. Yes, Conor. No, it's okay, Conor. I know you keep doing you, Conor. There's somebody, and I mean, it would be very, very difficult, but there is somebody out there that needs to step up to Conor. And no doubt he's going to have people that are in his circle that obviously care about him, but it's going to take some sort of person to, because Conor is a big character, it's going to take somebody to really shake it up and really cut all the bullshit out and say, listen, Conor, I'm going to get you the help you need, because he needs it. Because there are so many interviews throughout the week where he'd go completely off topic, he'd waffle on a little bit. And he wasn't like that back in the day. He was very articulate. Whilst it felt like he could have been waffling a little bit back in the day, he was very articulate, and it's just not the same. It's just very different. And I can't help but think that either he was on a substance at the time, or that he's been abusing it for too long to the point where it's forever altered him. Now, as I said, somebody's got to step in here and try and get this man some help before even thinking about getting back in the octagon, because this shit is long term. You know, this isn't just stopping at a fight camp for 3 or 4 months, have your fight, and, you know, you hop back on, have a good time, you know, whatever. To me, it's a little bit bigger than that. It feels like Conor isn't just one of those people anymore that has a good time. You know, oh, okay, I'll have some alcohol. Okay, I'll have some cocaine. I'll have this. It seems like this man could possibly be reliant on it every single day, because you're out here promoting a brand new movie as well. You'd have to think that you could get it together then. And he said throughout the week as well, he said something like, you know, it's hard for me to gear up for a fight camp when I don't know what's going on. And when I don't know what's going on, I tend to lose a little bit of interest. So then I'm back drinking again. You know, I don't know what to make of that, but that is somebody as well that, you know, when fights aren't happening, he is prone to having a good time. And considering all the money that he has made, he could get whatever he wanted when he wanted, just like that. But at the end of the day, as a fan, and as a massive fan of Conor McGregor, I'm just genuinely concerned for the man's welfare. I'm genuinely concerned for him, and I think somebody has to be, and somebody has to step their feet in and try get him the help he needs. Because what happens when the fight game's all over? What happens then? What happens when the movies go away? What happens when all the limelight and all the notoriety slowly but surely dims? It'll never go away. It's Conor McGregor, but it'll dim. What happens then? Does the substance abuse increase? What actually happens? I think the man desperately needs some help based off what I saw throughout the week. I hope he gets it. And I truly hope that he puts his own health and well-being before bringing out Mr. Show Business, right? Bringing out the entertainer for all the fans. He has to worry about himself, his family, and his well-being before anything, before even thinking about stepping back in the octagon against Michael Chandler. So I'm just genuinely concerned. I think it definitely saddens me that it's got to this point. And it just saddens me seeing somebody that, he's one of my heroes at his peak. He's one of my heroes. I loved everything about him, but he's not the same man anymore. And people say, yeah, the money changes you. The money changes people. Yeah, it does. But we're not talking about that here. We're talking about somebody who I think has a substance abuse problem, not just an ego problem. Somebody who has been abusing illicit substances for a long time and has been truly affected by it and is going to probably go on a more of a downward spiral if the shit doesn't stop now. And it has to stop now. So anybody that's a Conor McGregor fan out there, if you're watching this, you have to get on board here and truly hope that if we don't see Conor again even, but he's out there getting the help that he needs, then that's a win. That's a bigger win than he could ever get. Coming back in, knocking out Michael Chandler in 30 seconds, coming back in and completing a trilogy against Nate Diaz. It does not even amount to the win of overcoming some of these demons and overcoming some of these adversities and addictions. So I really hope that Conor thinks about himself and his family first here before thinking about Conor McGregor, the entertainer, and Conor McGregor, Mr. Show Business, and worrying about the fans and come back in the octagon. I just want the best for him as a person, and I truly hope he gets it. And that's that. So that is one part of what I wanted to come on here and talk about today. The second part is a little bit lighter, but it has its deeper moments as well. Throughout the week, the back and forth barbs between Colby Covington and Ian Garry was truly something to behold. And it all started with Colby Covington coming out and, pretty well on the boat. Greetings, nerds and virgins, as he does. And coming out with a few different stipulations if he is to accept the fight with Ian Garry. Now, call it what you will. Call it lunacy, ridiculous, over the top. That is Colby Covington in a nutshell. Whether he's on a loss, a losing skid, I feel like that's just part of his stick now, and he just has to run with it. It hits a little bit different now, considering that I don't really think that Colby is a title contender anymore. I definitely think he is going to be somebody that is very, very hard to beat in the welterweight division, but I don't think it matters because it's been his stick for a long time, and I think that he should just keep running with it regardless. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about today was Ian Garry's wife, Layla Machado Garry. Now, she come out after Colby said what he said and responded to a few things that were said and responded to a few things that the world often questions about hers and Ian's relationship. And now I'm also one of those people that I'm not quite sure where the Ian Garry hate really comes from. Do I think that it is warranted? No. But after seeing what I saw from Layla Machado Garry, they also don't help the cause. They also bring it upon themselves a little bit, I think. Now, Layla brought up some great points, I feel. She brought up a few things about how people really do, they read a headline and they don't actually delve into it and they don't do their research. Because at the end of the day, this generation has an attention span like a goldfish. It's crazy. And I agreed with some of the things she said. Having said that, I feel like she had a very, very condescending tone to it that I didn't really like. But the thing that I want to talk about with this is, while she cleared up some things, I'm talking about it from Ian Garry's standpoint here. So Ian Garry's probably kicking back and he's going, wow, Layla, by the way, that is a horrendous Irish accent. Terrible. But he must be kicking back at a point. He was probably kicking back hoping that he's like, my girl's done it. She's cleared up everything. She has owned Colby Covington. She has owned Sean Strickland because she did sound smarter, a bit more educated, I guess, but she was very, very condescending, which was poor. I think she could have handled the tone a little bit better. But having said that, when Colby and Sean have thrown a shitload of shade at your family, I can understand. I can completely understand. But her coming out on Instagram, if Ian thought that her winning this verbal war was going to do wonders for him and clear everything up and make the public turn, like, stop hating on them and give him a little bit of a break, I think that it's going to do the opposite here, because people have accused Ian Gary of being a cuck. Now, I don't understand quite what this cuck thing is, but pretty well it is. A lot of people are accusing Ian Gary of not wearing the pants in this relationship. It's stupid at the end of the day. Whether Layla Machado Gary is the boss, if you will, of the family or not is just completely irrelevant. It's just stupid. It's just banter at the end of the day that people can use. But for his wife to come out and say that, rather than Ian come out and say that, dude, you're a grown-ass man who should be fighting your own battles, right? You do not need to get your wife involved, even though she is involved because they're chatting and stuff. At the end of the day, it's you that Sean Strickland and Colby Covington are after. And I understand that Ian Gary came out and he said what he had to say about Colby. But he could have also cleared the air himself, I believe, and not allow Layla to do that. And another thing that I think, this one's a little bit harsh. I think with the turning the comments off and on Instagram, the comments are still off. So at some point, I think you just have to own up to it, I guess, and just turn the comments on. But at the same time, when I say that, I feel like I'm not quite believing it either, because the social media world is absolutely relentless. So why the fuck would you actually want any more of that crap when already you guys are seen as public enemy number one? But at the end of the day, I feel like Layla coming out and saying what she said, I feel like it just did the Garys a little bit even more of a disservice, because I think it should have been Ian that came out and said that stuff and cleared the air out, because at the end of the day, he is the fighter. He is the main one in the spotlight. And at the same time, like, I get that they would want to do that, but also you can't be putting your wife front row center at the UFC, cheering and carrying on like a bit of a fool, and not expect some form of backlash when you guys have already said a lot of stuff that you've said. You guys can't expect to not receive any backlash, considering, Layla coming out saying what she said on Instagram. It looks like Ian is hiding behind his wife, if you will. The comments have not been turned on. So, in a sense, you're shooting yourself in the foot, I believe. But at the end of the day, I get why the Garys want to clear things up in the hopes that all this bullshit will just stop. But as I said, I think it's been more of a disservice to the Garys, and I think that the hatred's going to continue. I think it's going to continue for the majority of Ian's career. I feel like it's all done, and I feel like with Layla being the person that she seems to be, it's not going to bode too well for that family. And also, like, the MMA pundits, all of us, we are relentless human beings. I think that, like, I'm not speaking for myself, I'm not really that relentless at all. But they're not going to slow up regardless. Considering the amount of haters that this family already has, it is ludicrous to think that there's going to be a complete 180 here. Having said that, I don't agree with the love that Sean Strickland gets, and I don't agree with the love that Colby Covington gets. You give it as good as you get it. They've said some disgusting things as well. And I think that the hatred that is put towards Ian Gary and is put towards Layla Machado Gary should also be put towards Sean Strickland and Colby Covington, because at the end of the day, fair is fair. And that's that. I believe that, yes, it's entertaining for the fans, but at the end of the day, like, people's families getting impacted here. And I just think sometimes it's just important just to slow the fuck up, everybody, and just think about how you would feel if it was your family getting attacked like that. So if anyone's watching and anyone's got this far, I think you should simply just go easy on the Garys if you're one of those people that are like, oh, Layla Machado Gary said something. Let's just like go nuts on Facebook. Let's go nuts on Instagram. Turn into a keyboard warrior. Because at the end of the day, I think that, you know, if you're like that, you're just as bad as these people. So, and at the end of the day, just give people a break, because you'd have to think, if it was your family that was in the public limelight and they were getting attacked like that, how would you feel? Simple. Just don't do it, because you'd hate it as well. Anyways, guys, I thought I'd jump on, do this mini podcast, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself just sitting here having a bit of a chat. I've done this before, and probably won't be the last time I do it. I'll probably do a couple more, because Kenny is always bloody gallivanting Australia, the world. For those people that don't know, Kenny actually fights Muay Thai, so he actually goes over to Bali, Thailand, and this sort of thing, and trains there. Very, very, very busy life. And on top of that, he is an Ed Sheeran impersonator. So he's always going to be a little bit busy from time to time. But little old me, engaged father, I'm always at home. And I'm always looking to entertain the many, many fans of the Two Casual MMA podcast. But until next time, gang, if you've come this far, I really appreciate it. And just sit back and just keep enjoying the content, casuals.